recording is now started. It is in your very capable hands, Michele.
Okay, well, good morning, everyone. When I was thinking about Angelica's title this morning, I was looking for things that I might want to read. And then when I was reading the Science of Mind magazine this morning, the dailies, I found this great quote from Maya Angelou. So I'm going to read the quote, and then we'll have a few moments of contemplative silence, and then Jackson will take us into the invocation. So just allow yourself to be here in this Zoom service, relaxing, taking a couple of deep breaths. While I know myself as a creation of God, I am also obligated to realize and remember that everyone else and everything else are also God's creation.
May the blessings of God rest upon you. May the peace abide in you. May the presence illuminate your heart, now and forevermore.
As we come together this morning, I know that the illumination of Spirit is within each and every one of us, lighting our lives, flowing in, through, and as each cell of our bodies, flowing through as health, as strength, and peace, and light. And I know that as we come together collectively, that this energy grows, that it is let out into our worlds, affecting all that we come in contact with. And I know that the words this morning Reverend Angelica has to speak will be the right and perfect words that we need to hear. And I allow my word to flow into this service in its right and perfect way. And so it is.
May the presence illuminate your heart, now and forevermore.
Thank you, Jackson and Michele. That was good. Good way to start out. So my talk this morning is let's get together and feel all right. That song, I don't remember who sang it or whatever. I keep trying to remember the lyrics, but I can't. But
Bob Marley.
Bob Marley.
Marley.
Oh, cool. All right. So, but before I start talking about this, I wanted to mention that today is, well, actually today, 6 years ago, in the afternoon around 5 o'clock, I drove up this driveway here and found the key where it had been hidden and opened the door and came in. The first thing I saw was a big welcome home sign on the wall. And then I looked around and there was a bed and there was furniture, there was food in the refrigerator, there was toilet paper in the bathrooms. Me and my cats were so happy and we felt so welcomed. That was the end of a 5-day journey across the United States to get here. And the next morning, I remember walking up the stairs to the center, the front stairs, and everybody was out there with balloons and cheering and all of that. And I felt, again, so welcomed. And I have felt welcomed ever since. I've put my Facebook cover photo, the big heading photo that says grateful and blessed. And that's absolutely the way I've been. And so I thank everybody for that. Thank you. Thank you. So, and I also figured out yesterday that this is in September, it will be my 34th year of ministry. So it's like, wow, I've been doing this a long time. I'm glad I like it. So let's get together and feel all right is our talk title today. And basically what this is about is moving into this idea of inclusion even more. And you know that in the science of mind, our central principle of oneness does not equal sameness. This, however, calls us together in a state of diversity, and inclusion helps us live out this oneness. Unity doesn't mean uniformity. The whole idea of oneness is central to our teaching. And when we stop and think about oneness, that actually, even though we look like we're diverse, we look like we're all different, that's not true. I mean, it's true in one respect, but in the truth of everything, at a much higher level or a deeper level, we are all one. One energy, this divine energy that we call God. And we're immersed in this energy, and this energy is immersed in us. And in this energy, it creates itself through us. It creates us to experience life as us. And each one of us is so diverse. So it's getting these opportunities, this energy, to experience life in so many different ways, millions of different ways. I mean, you go outside and look at the weeds, for instance. I was pulling weeds yesterday, and I looked at the weeds, and even though this is a dandelion and this is a dandelion, that they might have the same looking flower. You might think that they look the same, but I was really looking at them yesterday because of this idea. And every plant is different. Every plant is different in some way. Everything is different in some way. So this remembering that we're unified in the one source helps us with this idea of inclusion. And so what I realized is that we're being called right now, because of everything that's happening in our world, not just our country, but our world. Because of this, we're being called to really become self-observant, to see what are our thoughts or ideas that no longer serve us. And as we do this, which is what the whole teaching of Science of Mind is about, then we begin to transform. Our consciousness transform, and as we transform our consciousness, the consciousness of humanity transforms. So I thought of some ideas here today. The first one, I mean, this is about how to live in this idea of oneness and diversity, or diversity and inclusion. So my first one is to use mindfulness to really become the observer of your thoughts. One of the things I wrote about the other day was that I have a mindfulness practice that I like using whenever I start to feel overwhelmed or frustrated with anything. And that is, I just stop and I take a few deep breaths, and then I pay attention to my 5 senses. I look around me and notice the things that are in my my environment. And so as I tell you these, I want you to do them. So really look at what's in your environment. Really pay attention. And then what do you hear? Listen. Right now, one of my cats is sleeping on the other side of the laptop, and I can hear her snoring. I'd rather it be purring, but she's snoring. I can hear my refrigerator humming away. What can you hear? Maybe you just took a sip of coffee. So what are you tasting, or what can you remember tasting this morning? And what can you feel with your fingers when you're touching? I can feel the keyboard when I'm playing with it. I can feel the clothing on my body. I can feel my sweater on my body. And for some reason, I'm drawing a blank as to what the fifth one is. Sight, sound, taste, touch. There's one more I can't remember. Well, the four of them work. But if you pay attention to these things, then you become more present in your body. And being more present in your body makes you be more in the now. So use mindfulness to become the observer of your thoughts and your actions and your environment, and allow yourself to separate from any implicit biases you might have. As I do this process of mindfulness, it allows me, as I said just a minute ago, to come back into my body from wherever I might have been, maybe worrying about the past or the future, etc. Come back into my body and remember that there is that within me that is more powerful than I can possibly ever imagine. There is that within me that is absolutely divine. And that same divinity is within everything and everyone. So all those things that you just experienced with your senses, they too are God. They too are divine. So my second idea in this inclusion or diversity and inclusion is to apply conscious effort to recognize what biases you have and find opportunity to practice inclusion. I know that some of you are doing different things, whether you're reading books or watching videos or taking classes. So involving yourself in different programs to allow yourself to reduce intolerance and to increase and celebrate diversity and celebrate inclusion in all of our actions. So apply a conscious effort to do this. The third one is to set an intention to be inclusion in action. We know that the law works. We know that once you set an intention to do something, then the whole universe rushes forward and provides opportunities for us to do that. It doesn't, sometimes we have opportunities that aren't necessarily as comfortable as we'd like them to be. And so the fourth one is to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. You know, when I am working with these ideas of white fragility or white supremacy or whatever, you know, thinking from that place, having been bred in that place, then some of my conversations become uncomfortable because I think, oh, was I supposed to say that? Or would that be construed as being racist or whatever? I had this experience quite a while ago when I was working at as a data processing manager. So, you know, if I'm going to be 34 years in the ministry, you can tell how long ago this was. And I'm talking to a girlfriend at break, and there was a new guy in our office, a new salesman. And I said to her, ooh, that black guy is really handsome. He was over by the water cooler. And she looks at me and she said, why did you have to identify him as black? And I thought, well, he is. And then she said, why didn't you say the man with the blue shirt at the water cooler? And that was a very uncomfortable thing at the time, you know, because I'm one of those who's always said I'm colorblind. And then in all the reading and everything I've been doing, the classes I've been taking, I'm realizing, no, I'm not. I do have biases about different things. For instance, when I was raised as a child, our cleaning lady was an African-American woman. Our gardener was Japanese. You know, the people that my parents would hire to come and do their cocktail parties, to be the bartenders and stuff, were always a different race than we were. So there's all that to contend with. So for me, getting comfortable with being uncomfortable has been sort of a spiritual practice lately. And my last one is to be receptive to change. We are going through massive change right now. You know, even if you think, oh, I've just been sitting at home for the last 5 months, there's still changes going on in the world all over the place. There's changes going on within us. There's changes everywhere. So allowing yourselves to open up your thinking through awareness and choices, you're changing your life. And by doing this, we're also up-leveling the consciousness of humanity. And I think that's one of the reasons why Science of Mind is available to us, is so that not only can we up-level our own consciousness, but we could help humanity up-level it as we can up-level the consciousness of humanity as well, to move beyond all these things that have been swept under the rug for so long. I did want to mention one thing with that get comfortable and being uncomfortable with number 4, is that there's, to me, one of the things I've realized is it's become sort of a spiritual practice right now to practice active listening. And I was thinking about listening yesterday as I was having a conversation with someone and thinking about the fact that they were telling me this long story. Now, this isn't anyone in our community, please. This person was telling me a long story. They always tell long stories. And I know that about them. And I've known them since I was 18. So, you know, she's a very dear friend. But so she's telling me this long story, and I sort of have the crux of the story, because I've heard a story somewhat like that many times before. And so I start thinking about something else. And I thought I had to come back at one point, because all of a sudden she says, Jane, are you listening to me? And she calls me Jane because she's known me so long. And I thought, oh, wow, I wasn't. I had gone somewhere totally else. I was not practicing active listening. And that can be hurtful. That can be really hurtful. So then I started thinking about the different types of listening after I got off the phone. I thought, there's that kind of listening that could almost be considered competitive listening, where you're participating in a conversation and somebody says something and you get a thought and you can't wait till you could tell your thought, and then they come in with their thought, and it's sort of a competition to see who can be the smartest, or who can be the boldest in the conversation, etc. And then there's sort of passive listening. I was thinking about that as being like what's happening right now. We can't have a conversation except in chat, and I can't look at the chat and do my talk at the same time. So I'm just speaking and you're passively listening. But that active listening is where we're really looking in somebody's eyes, where we're allowing ourselves to be present for them 100%, no matter how many times you've heard the story before, even if it makes you uncomfortable. So here's all of our ideas. Use mindfulness, apply conscious effort to recognize bias, set an intention to be inclusion and action, get comfortable with being uncomfortable, and being receptive to change. Now, Eckhart Tolle, I found this wonderful phrase that I really like, only I can't read half of it now because, oops, wrong one. No, go back. I don't know how to go back now. Darn. Well, I guess we're going to skip that one. You'll have to look at the Facebook page and see what it is. But this is a very important point right here, is that the universe doesn't speak English. It speaks frequency. Frequency. And where does frequency come? Frequency comes from our feelings. So when we're doing all those 5 things that I mentioned before, make sure you're not just doing it from your head, you're doing it from your heart as well. Because the heart is where the frequency comes from. And we want to have that frequency of inclusion. We know the diversity. We can see the diversity. We experience the diversity. And now we really want to come from that heart space of inclusion. So let yourself remember, the universe doesn't speak English, it speaks frequency. Dr. Holmes says, I am guided by the same intelligence and inspired by the same imagination which scatters the moonbeams across the waves and holds the force of nature in its grasp. Not only are we guided by it, but we're made by it. We experience everything because of it. The same intelligence of the universe is within us. It made us. It's living our lives in, through, and as us. And so let's be inspired by all of that. Let's remember how powerful it is, and therefore how powerful we are. We're at this moment in time for a reason. And I fully believe that part of our reason is growth. I mean, we all know that. But it's not just individual growth, it's the collective growth of humanity. And thank God that we can be present here and now. So let's say this affirmation together. I have to move these. Okay. Today, I open my heart and mind to see the divine spark in all creation. With a commitment to cooperation, compassion, and understanding, I open my heart and truly see the unity of all life. And I thank Susan for this month's affirmations. And let's go into prayer. How grateful I am to remember that there is only one life. That life is God's life, and that life is the life that we are living right now. If we really knew who we were, we would be awed and humbled. And so I declare that there's part of us that is remembering, and that remembering is coming to the fourth thought, coming to the front of our brains, so that we actively live from this idea that we're the life of God made manifest right here and right now. And knowing that this is our truth, I know that we have peeled away all the layers that we might have accepted from the collective consciousness that are biased or racist or need defending. All of these old layers are now being peeled away. We're allowing ourselves to reveal, to remove all of the bonds that we've had up until this moment and reveal the truth of us, that light of the divine, spirit in form. And I know that as we do this, we begin to see the world with new eyes, real eyes. We see life of spirit everywhere. Everything that is, whether it be something animate or inanimate, we recognize this too is God. This too is good. This too is for me. The words of Emma Curtis Hopkins. This is life itself. So I know that this week we allow ourselves to acknowledge this. We acknowledge our inner power. We acknowledge our inner compassion. The love, the divine energy of love that is continually moving through us. We acknowledge that absolutely everything is God. Everything is oneness. And yet it is diversive. Diversity in form. And we allow ourselves in this diversity to be inclusive. How wonderful it is that we're not all the same. So with a grateful heart, I acknowledge each one of us as the amazingly unique beings that we are. God in form. And I celebrate our one life, knowing that it is more loving than anything else. And I release these words into the divine law, knowing that they are so right now, and so it is.